Well, welcome everyone. Good to see you all. And this is the beginning of a series of one-on-one conversations between David and myself. And the goal of this is just to give you a chance to get to know us better, given that we are still in the situation of being somewhat apart and doing this virtual church thing. And so we thought it'd be a cool way to give some insight into our lives, both in terms of just quirky things about us, but also more serious ministry related things. And so we'll have a whole series of these short episodes and hope that they are a benefit to you to get to know us a bit better. And today we're going to start with more sort of soft side things. And we're going to pepper each other with some, what are your favorite kinds of things, favorite book, favorite movie, that kind of stuff. And then at the end of this episode, we'll talk about how we met our respective brides. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to ask David the questions first, and then he'll turn around and ask me the questions. So, David, what's your favorite music?
My favorite band is U2. Been listening to them since high school, since 1982. So, them and Coldplay. But most of the time in my office, I listen to sort of classical instrumental Bach cello suites or something like that, just to help me study. What about you?
I kind of waffle between a bit of an indie streak and a bit of dad rock. And by dad rock, I mean bands like Wilco, although Coldplay and U2 would certainly be in the dad rock category. But there's a handful of sort of indie type bands that I appreciate more on the alternative spectrum. As a 90s kid, sort of growing up into that as I've aged. So, but like you, a lot of times when I'm trying to work, I've been listening to more ambient type stuff, not quite classical, but just instrumental stuff. So that's what I do when I'm in the office as well. All right, what's your favorite movie?
And
or one of them.
One of them. This is a hard one, but either Shawshank Redemption or Gladiator.
That's hilarious. We've never actually talked about this, but no. I would probably say both of those myself.
Really?
If I had to pick one, I would pick Shawshank, and I don't really know why. I just always appreciate the themes.
Yeah.
And I guess we both sort of were in the 90s warrior movie. You know, Braveheart, Gladiator, and The Patriot are kind of the big three mega epics that I always appreciate. And they just don't make them like that anymore. So
no, that's true.
All right, favorite non-theological book, or one of them?
Non-theological.
Yeah, we're not doing Bible stuff today.
Oh, right. But the ones that I had in my mind were Quest for Godliness and Knowing God, sort of my two big books. But favorite book, Sherlock Holmes. I've read all the short stories. Favorite, just love it. Eat it up. What about you?
Would you like the movies?
I like the Robert Downey ones. Yeah, they're good. The old ones are kind of cool too. But.
Yeah, I appreciated the Downey ones.
Yeah,
for me, probably, and I don't know what this says about me, but probably my favorite all-time book is John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. Probably followed closely by Grapes of Wrath. And I'm not really sure why Of Mice and Men, because it's obviously a pretty strange and dark story, but I've always really appreciated it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
All right, favorite category of food, or maybe favorite place to eat?
Favorite category of food is
Or sort of, if you had to pick one meal that you wanted to have after quarantine's over, what would it be?
So my favorite kind of food, just in general, is French food. Love good French food.
Like French fries?
No,
toast?
French fries are actually English. They're chips, right? But if I had, like, post-quarantine, if I was eating ramen noodles all during quarantine, actually our favorite restaurant is F&D Kitchen up here in Lake Mary. So everything they make on their menu is really good. They're not paying me to say that either. So not that they're ever going to hear this.
Right. Well, once it goes viral.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not much of a foodie. We've been eating mostly at home even before the quarantine began, and so I like it's not really sort of the thing I do in terms of, like, I love to go out to eat at restaurants. But I mean, I like a good seared tuna. I do like a steak. Mm-hmm. So pretty much anything Kate makes or my kids make would be my favorite thing.
Right. My wife's a great cook, so that makes it easy for me.
All right, favorite sport to watch and favorite sport to play. Given that we can't, we're both old and decrepit, but theoretically, what sport will we like to play the most?
Right. Well, I'm a basketball guy, NBA and pickup basketball. Though I gave up pickup basketball a couple of years ago because it got too violent. It was more like MMA, UFC.
Oh, yeah, well, the old man elbow throwing. I know what that's like.
That's exactly right, because you can't move, so you just have to push.
Yeah, I hated that when I was in high school. These old guys would just elbow me in the face all the time.
That's me
So
now.
both play and watch is basketball.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, probably to watch. I used to watch pro and college sports more than I do now, but probably either basketball or football. I know I probably shouldn't say football because of violence and whatnot, but there's some parts of it that I appreciate. But probably in terms of playing now, I would say soccer, I suppose. I mean, I played a good bit of basketball, but I just can't do it anymore. I can still sort of jog around and play soccer, so maybe that would be my pick there.
We watch a lot of sort of Premier League at our house. I'm an Arsenal supporter, so we watch a lot of the English football.
Yeah. I don't actually like watching soccer, but I appreciate playing it. I mean, I like watching my kids play soccer. But I don't like it on TV.
Yeah, that's fun.
All right, two more of this rapid fire round. Favorite place you've been?
Boy, that's tough. Been to a lot of cool places. Probably my favorite place would be, I just had to pick one place, would be Paris. I think Paris is the coolest city. Walkable, history, food, bakeries, bread, the cheese, wine, it's fantastic.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, it's probably maybe a tie between when we were, I think our 1-year anniversary, we went to Whistler, Canada to go skiing. And so Vancouver and Whistler, that was pretty cool. But then whenever you're in England, you can travel other places pretty easily. And so probably our favorite trip when our parents came over and Kate and I could go somewhere because they kept the kids was Barcelona. That was a very cool town. It's totally different than any other city I've ever been to. So that was neat. All right, last one, mountains or beach?
Oh, Gwen and I were talking about this yesterday. We were at the beach yesterday. And, I would probably say mountains.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%
mountains. I mean, like Colorado mountains. Though the hills of Carolinas are nice, but I think mountains, like you say, like Whistler, like that stuff's just fantastic. Takes your breath away.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a mountains person. All right. Then the big question: how did you meet Gwen?
Well, I was living in Ohio, finished my undergrad, was working for a church, and decided to pursue theological education. So I moved to Wheaton, Illinois, and was doing a master's degree in theology at Wheaton. And Gwen grew up in Wheaton. She was a Wheaton kid. Her dad was a Wheaton prof, taught Bible at Wheaton for 30 years. And I was going to College Church in Wheaton, which is just right across the street from Wheaton College. That's not officially related in any way. And I was helping out with the youth group. So I was going to school, was living in somebody's basement, and I was volunteering with the high school kids, helping out. And we had a volunteer team. One of the ladies on the team was one of Gwen's lifelong friends, had gone to high school with Gwen. Her name was Layla. And after about 6 months of getting to know me, she finally thought it was safe to introduce me to Gwen. So Gwen at that time had just graduated from Wheaton College, was teaching music education in a junior high school. And she was also on the weekends, she was traveling around doing live gigs. So she would sing in coffee houses, basically country music. And Layla invited me, along with some of the other volunteer staff from the youth ministry, to go to this coffee house. It was called Bean Wild, like bean, but bean, like playing off a bean. It was a bad pun, I guess. But we all sort of went to this coffee house where Gwen was singing live. And I didn't know that Layla had told Gwen that she was bringing somebody to meet her. I thought that I was the only one who was there scoping Gwen out, but Gwen was in the know as well, scoping me out. So this was a total setup. But during the breaks, she would come over to our table because it was a lot of people that she knew, and of course Layla was there, and we got to chatting and that kind of stuff. And so after her whole sort of evening was over, she came back to the table, and I just said, "Hey, would you mind if I gave you a call sometime?" And the true answer, if you asked her, you might get a different answer, but the true answer to what she actually said was, "I would love that," with an emphasis on the long love part. So she was into me from the beginning. She won't admit that though. So that's really how we met. And then we went out 2 nights later, and we were engaged 6 months after that. I was 25, she was 24. So.
Gotcha. Very cool. We'll be sure to ask her the real story when we have a
I
chance.
just gave you the real story.
Yeah, for us, we were both at UNC Chapel Hill, which is in North Carolina, and she was I guess a junior, and I was a sophomore. But no, she was a senior. I was a junior, and our roommates had started dating each other. And my roommate and I had a soccer team that his girlfriend was on. And Kate came along to a soccer practice one time to meet my roommate, to sort of vet him on behalf of her friend who was his girlfriend. And so she joined us for soccer practice, and so I got to see her play soccer, and it was great. I thought, who's this cute girl? And we didn't really talk a whole lot then, but the whole point of her being there was to kick the tires on her roommate's boyfriend, who was my roommate. There was a Campus Crusade back when it was called Campus Crusade, now Crew, semi-formal that our roommates were going to go to together. And so we had sort of basically agreed to go with each other as to go with them. And she had heard that I was this just fantastic. I mean, this may be a real surprise to a lot of people, but she had heard that the main thing that she had heard about me was I was tall and I was nerdy, which I know it comes as a big shock to basically everyone. I was a computer science major, but she hadn't heard that I was pretty killer on the dance floor. And so we went to the semi-formal. We had a great time, and she found out that I was not quite that kind. Hopefully, not as nerdy as maybe she'd been led to believe. And so we became interested in each other. Started dating / courting, whatever we should call it these days. That spring, she actually moved to Seattle after she graduated, so we dated long distance for quite some time. I ended up dating for over 4 years before we actually got married. But it started on the soccer field, but the deal was sealed on the dance floor. So
that's legit. You are Fred Astaire. That's like a hidden talent of yours.
Used to be
Like ballroom or break dancing or hip hop.
We were mostly doing swing dancing.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, a little hip hop R&B kind of dancing, whatever Caucasians do for that.
This is totally new information for me. So where'd you go to dance school, or how did you?
It's just inborn, man.
You just have the rhythm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, well, that's been fun. This ends episode 1. We'll catch each other next time.
Cool. See you.